Today we're going to tackle a topic that commonly stands between developers and shipping a functional Square app: user management. Building a reliable system that persists user information, handles forgotten passwords, allows sign-in with SSO, and other nice-to-haves like emailing a magic login link is a ton of work. It's work that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with your app idea, but it has to exist. Let's take a look at what integrating an auth provider with a Square app looks like. Just a heads up, this video assumes that you have seen our previous video on Order Hoarder, a sample app we created to demonstrate Square's OAuth flow. This video will be retrofitting relevant parts of that codebase to instead use an authorization service and remove our custom user management code. Our auth service of choice today is Supabase, which includes an open source authentication server built on Postgres with a lot of great features. Our friend Thor from Supabase is going to give us a quick overview of what Supabase can do for your project and how to get started with it.
Thank you, Jordan. Hello, everyone. Let me tell you a little bit about Supabase. Supabase is the open source Firebase alternative, built on top of Postgres, with tons of functionality like authentication, instant auto-generated APIs, edge functions, real-time subscriptions, and even vector embeddings. Plenty of things included, and everything is open source. It's all underpinned by the Postgres database. Every project in Supabase gets its own fully fledged Postgres database. And in this Order Hoarder demo that Jordan is building, we'll be using the authentication server, which sits on top of Postgres. Thank you, everyone, and back to you, Jordan.
Thanks, Thor. If you don't have a Supabase account already, go create one and start a new project. In the project settings, we can find the values for the 3 new variables in our .env file. Now you need to create a new folder, utils/supabase, and within that folder, create 3 new files: api.ts, serverprops.ts, and admin.ts. These files will export a single create client method that you can use in various parts of your app. Keep in mind, all of these methods are going to be run on the Next.js server and not in our browser code. To create a client that runs in your browser, check out Supabase's docs on the topic. Now that you can reliably instantiate Supabase, we'll start our refactor with the login signup page. The general flow of this page is the user fills out information into the signup form. Those values get submitted to our API route, pages/api/users/signup, where we can then create a JSON web token, or JWT, for the user and create a new row in our users table to track this account. We currently have to hash and salt the password, sign the JWT, and maintain this table in our database. Instead, we'll just update our API route to call the Supabase SDK and use the signup method. We will pass in our user information submitted from the front end, and then you're done. The Supabase SDK will create the user and a JWT. From there, you can just return the response from the SDK. If you go to the Supabase dashboard after having a user create an account, you can see that the user and their relevant information has been stored into the Supabase users table. This table has 2 object fields that are going to be very useful. In the user metadata field, we can store the first name, last name, and avatar. In the app metadata field, we can store our more secure information, like our encrypted Square access token and other relevant Square data for this user. Let's take a look in our dashboard/index.tsx file to see how we query and present this data. In our get server-side props function, we use the Supabase SDK method getUser, which queries the Supabase users table with the user ID from the JWT. When the dashboard component loads, you have access to the user.usermetadata.firstname attribute and can display it on the page. Check out the file navbar nested/index.tsx to see some other examples of presenting user information to the front end. The last example I want to show you in this video is how we store the access token from Square. Let's take a look at our api/square/callback.ts file. I want to focus on the success section of our method. First thing you need to do after getting a successful response from obtaining the Square access token is to create a Supabase client to retrieve our currently logged in user's ID. We then pass this user to our helper method, save Supabase data, defined in serverhelpers.ts. In order to store our access tokens, we will need to change the app metadata field, which requires elevated privileges. In order to do this, we need to create an admin Supabase client. We will pass it our user's ID as well as the data we want to place inside app metadata. We will still be encrypting the access tokens before storing them in this field. With an auth provider, we get to delete a lot of code here. This step used to update 3 different SQL tables to persist the information, and now all of it is handled with this one call to update user by ID. As someone who enjoys deleting code way more than writing it, this project was a blast. There's plenty that we didn't cover in this video, but we think you'll have a better time exploring the code for yourself. So check out the links in this video's description and start exploring the full Supabase integration with Order Hoarder today. Thanks for watching and happy coding.